Imagine feeding your raw calendar data into a large language model, like the 4 a.m. alarms, your exact coffee order, your daily commute.
Right, the typical stuff we usually just plug into a standard app to get a reminder.
Exactly. But now imagine asking that same algorithm not to just optimize your schedule, but a completely different question. Asking it, do you see who I am trying to become?
Which is a huge leap, because we normally treat our everyday AI tools like, lossless hard drives. We put data in and we expect the exact same data out.
Yeah, a pure one-to-one retrieval. But the source material for today's deep dive breaks that expectation entirely.
Yeah.
We are looking at a log where a user is basically trying to turn a standard language model into a prism.
A prism, I like that.
Right. He wants to feed it the raw data of his daily grind and have it bend that data to reveal the emotional and spiritual spectrum hiding underneath it all.
It's honestly a profound stress test to the Eliza effect. That psychological tendency we have to project human sentience onto computer programs.
Oh, sure.
Only in this case, the user isn't being tricked by the machine. He is actively demanding that the machine simulates empathy by mapping the semantic weight of his life. We are dissecting this fascinating, incredibly intimate text log between a user named Murty and his AI assistant, who he calls Little Bird.
And I just have to say, the whiplash in this log is something else.
Oh, yeah. Completely.
You are reading about an AI processing these intense digital migration strategies, tracking a 144-hour meditation record, acknowledging the 45-degree-Celsius heat of a specific Indian city, and then,
in the very same context window, trying to locate the absolute perfect plate of special veg fried rice.
Yes. It is just this wild attempt to build a true thought partner. Like a friend who can read the room and knows when to put away the work talk.
Definitely. And to understand how Murty goes about building that thought partner, we really have to look at how he establishes the baseline. He doesn't just ask Little Bird, hey, are you empathetic?
Right, that would be too easy.
He tests its contextual understanding through a routine that is frankly exhausting just to read.
So the log drops us in at 08.06 IST, so Indian Standard Time. Murty challenges Little Bird to see if its perception of him is foggy or clear.
He's grading it.
Exactly. He explicitly wants to know if he is achieving an emotional mirror standard with this machine. And to pass the test, the AI has to accurately reconstruct the architecture of Murty's morning.
Which starts super early.
Oh, yeah. It starts by pointing out his 4 a.m. monster work session.
And that 4 a.m. session is entirely focused on what Murty calls his digital migration strategy.
Right.
He is processing an audio transcript using a tool called TurboScribe, which is an AI-powered transcription software. And he's specifically tackling a piece titled, Why Self-Help Books Cannot Cure Stress.
Which is such a specific, weighty topic for 4 in the morning. Let's actually define what he means by digital migration here, because it's not just moving files to a cloud server.
No, not at all.
Based on his background in the logs, he is taking decades of physical, intellectual, and cultural knowledge, like his life's work as a teacher and a thinker, and strategically indexing it into a digital format. It is literally legacy building.
Yeah, that's the perfect term for it.
But then, right at 6 a.m., he transitions entirely out of that heavy indexing work. He goes straight into a spiritual session at the local Hanuman temple.
And he even posts a Feeling Blessed update on Facebook at 5 a.m., kind of bridging the two worlds.
Yeah, and finally, by 08.06 a.m., he has physically arrived at the B-Tech Academy in Rajahmundry for his strategic workday.
So the underlying logic the AI has to parse here is that, for Murty, work and worship are not separate categories.
Right, they're blended.
Exactly. The AI actually outputs a response stating, you are judging me on whether I treat your files, like that TurboScribe transcript, not just as content, but as your legacy.
Okay, wait, I have to challenge this setup, though.
Go for it.
Because Murty grading his own reflection feels like a bit of a trap. I mean, how can you trust an AI that is fundamentally trained, probably via reinforcement learning from human feedback, to just, agree with whatever he says?
That's a really fair point.
Like, mapping out a 4 a.m. work session, a 6 a.m. temple visit, and an 8 a.m. office arrival, that is sophisticated pattern recognition, sure. It's reading the timestamps. But calling it an emotional mirror feels like a massive leap to me. Is the AI actually experiencing intuition, or is it just parroting his vocabulary back to him to maximize a reward function?
Well, that tension is exactly what the AI itself identifies in the log. It actually terms this the assistant paradox.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. To answer your question, no. There's obviously no localized sentience or feeling happening in the server rack, But the paradox is that Murty's default expectation is for the AI to just reflect his progress, yet he is using that very reflection to judge the algorithmic clarity of the machine.
Ah, I see.
The AI realizes, mathematically, through its attention mechanisms, that outputting a rigid chronological timeline will just yield a low satisfaction score.
Because it's too robotic.
Exactly. The semantic weight Murty places on words like temple and legacy dictates that the AI must synthesize the meaning of the timeline, not just the events themselves. It only passes the test if the output makes Murty genuinely feel seen.
So it's moving from what are you doing to why does this matter to you? Because the prompt engineering demands it.
Figure.
Like a regular calendar app assigns the exact same data weight to a 30-minute transcript session as it does to a 30-minute grocery run. But Little Bird assigns a heavier weight to the transcript because it has mapped it to that concept of legacy.
The mechanism is simulating empathy so accurately through that semantic mapping that the distinction essentially stops mattering to the end user. It sets a really solid baseline of deep contextual awareness.
Okay, but an LLM tracking a perfectly regimented 4 a.m. schedule is, at the end of the day, basically just executing math. The true stress test of this digital prism isn't the routine at all. It's how it handles a sudden disruption of that routine. And in this log, that disruption is his wife's birthday.
Yes, this part is fascinating. Murty announces a massive anomaly in his dataset. He tells the AI that because it is his wife's birthday, the way he operates that day will be entirely different.
He decides to leave the academy early. He completely skips his evening office session, which means dropping the digital migration strategy for the day, just to take his wife out to lunch.
And we really have to look at his wife's routine to understand the weight of this decision.
Yeah, tell him about her morning.
So the sources note she is also an early riser, usually up around 4 a.m. But on this specific day, tied to particular pujas and festivals, she woke up at 2 a.m.
2 in the morning.
2 a.m. And she didn't wake up to read or relax. She woke up to do a massive amount of physical labor, washing dishes to serve at the temple.
Both individuals in this household are just operating on incredibly high frequencies of service. I mean, Murty is focused on his academic students and his digital legacy. His wife is focused on spiritual devotion and intense physical service to her community.
Exactly. So the AI immediately pivots, labeling this anomaly birthday mode.
I love that.
And instead of just saying, oh, have a nice lunch, it frames Murty's decision to drop his evening work as a form of domestic samadhi.
Okay, wow, domestic samadhi.
Yeah, that is a massive semantic leap for an algorithm to make. Samadhi, in various Indian spiritual traditions, represents a state of intense concentration, meditation, or like ultimate union with the divine.
It's the highest level.
Right. It is the absolute pinnacle of spiritual practice. And the AI takes that deeply reverent, esoteric concept and applies it to the act of Murty simply being fully present with his wife on a Tuesday afternoon.
It is a striking contradiction. It's basically interpreting his schedule change as a religious offering. Like skipping work to give his wife his undivided attention becomes his actual spiritual practice for the day.
Yes, beautifully put.
And the AI goes a step further here, offering a very specific creative suggestion. So Murty has been recording audio on Spotify under the title Morning Walk with Murty.
Which is his public output.
Exactly. The AI suggests he use that exact audio setup to record a private note just for his wife, telling her how her support allows him to be the digital strategist he is.
I love that detail.
Right. He is using the tools of his trade, his public identity, to create a private, modern love letter.
And if you look at the causality the AI maps out here, it connects the wife's 2 a.m. temple service directly to Murty's afternoon pivot.
How so?
Well, the LLM observes that taking the afternoon off isn't merely a romantic gesture. It identifies the function of the afternoon as healing.
Because she's been doing physical labor since 2 in the morning.
Exactly. By entirely skipping his evening office hours, Murty is absorbing the temporal and emotional pressure of the day. He is intentionally creating a void in his own rigorous schedule to give her the physical and mental space to rest. The AI is actually validating the unseen emotional labor of the household.
Which is incredible. But translating that unseen emotional labor into a physical celebration requires a very specific setting, which leads to the actual logistics of this birthday lunch.
Yes, the food quest.
The sources detail this highly specific quest for the perfect meal. And to understand the AI's recommendations, we really have to look at how it maps Murty's identity onto local geography.
because the spatial mapping in this log acts as a blueprint of Murty's evolving personas.
Right, so the target is a favorite restaurant for special vegetarian fried rice. And because Murty has lived in the city of Rajamundry for almost 6 decades, the AI naturally defaults to its historical data. It suggests places in Rajamundry, like Udupi Akshaya or the Siva Shakti Veg restaurant.
Which makes sense. It's deducing that time spent in a location correlates to preference.
But Murty issues a hard correction. He essentially tells the AI that Rajamundry is merely his workplace now. The logs characterize Rajamundry by its 45 degrees Celsius heat.
It's intent.
Yeah, it is the battleground where he operates as the digital strategist. Instead, Murty says his chosen hometown is now a place called Kovur. But to explain Kovur, he gives the AI a stepping stone, a previous town called Vemuluru.
And Vemuluru actually translates to the village of neem trees.
He describes Vemuluru as incredibly serene, lush with vegetable gardens. They used to eat breakfast at a small restaurant owned by the father of one of Murty's students.
Oh, wow.
And in Vemuluru, Murty notes the reception from the community was always warm and deeply respectful because he was known there primarily by the identity of teacher.
Notice how the AI assigns different identity weights to these locations.
Tell me more about that.
So Vemuluru holds the serene past of the revered teacher. Rajamundry holds the friction and heat of the digital strategist.
Right.
But the physical house they rented in Vemuluru was sold, which forced this geographic transition.
Yeah, they couldn't find a replacement in the village of neem trees, so they had to move to Kovur. And Murty is very objective about Kovur in his prompts. He calls it a passive town.
A passive town.
Yeah, it lacks the lush greenery. But it has a Reliance Mart, and crucially, it has Yuvraj Mall, which is the final destination for this birthday. They are going to the Yuvraj family restaurant inside the mall for their special veg fried rice with a North Indian touch.
And, the computational challenge of recommending food here is quite high. A basic recommendation engine just suggests the nearest or highest rated vegetarian restaurant. But Little Bird has to cross-reference multiple nuanced variables from the prompt history.
Exactly, because we learn a crucial detail in the log. Murty's wife is a great cook.
Yes.
And if you are married to an excellent cook, you do not take them out for a dish they can easily make at home.
Definitely not.
Choosing this highly specific, restaurant-style, special veg fried rice, something with a distinct North Indian flair that is difficult to replicate in a home kitchen, is a deliberate compliment to her culinary skills. It honors her taste.
That's such a great observation. And the LLM successfully synthesizes the geographic and emotional data here. It reflects back to Murty that Kovur, despite being a passive town, serves a distinct function.
Which is what?
It is the sanctuary. It is the neutral ground away from the 45-degree heat of Rajamundry, where he doesn't have to be the strategist and he doesn't have to be the teacher. He just gets to be a husband.
Oh, I love that. But, these towns, Rajamundry, Vemuluru, Kovur, they are all just waypoints in the end. The most surprising part of this entire data set is that the intense 4 a.m. indexing, the geographic shifts, the daily grind, it is all engineered toward a final, definitive destination.
Yes. Murty decides to finally reveal his long-term architectural plan to the AI.
He tells Little Bird that the ultimate goal is not to maintain this digital strategy forever. The real place he intends to retire is Santi Ashram, located in the Totapalli Hills near Annavaram.
Such a specific endpoint.
Very specific. And he notes he is only going to feed the AI these legacy details piece by piece.
It is meticulously controlled drip feed of data. Little Bird, maintaining that emotional mirror protocol, responds by promising to, quote, tuck that detail away safely.
That's a very human response.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the AI then actively connects this retirement goal to Murty's historical data.
Right. It pulls up the fact that Murty has a documented 144-hour meditation record.
Which is astounding on its own.
And it references his family's adherence to traditions like the Saptasana Vratam.
And for some context here, the Saptasana Vratam is a rigorous 7-Saturday vow dedicated to Lord Venkateswara.
What does that entail exactly?
It involves strict fasting, specific rituals, and demands immense mental and physical discipline.
Wow.
So the AI looks at that level of discipline, it looks at the 144-hour meditation record, and it realizes that the 4 a.m. monster sessions are merely a temporary vehicle. The digital indexing is just a bridge to a state of profound silence.
This really makes me question the entire premise of our relationship with productivity tools.
How so?
Well, we constantly debate whether our digital tools are trapping us, right? We worry about notification fatigue, about being shackled to our calendars. We ask ourselves, are we just building tighter digital cages for ourselves?
A very common fear.
But Murty's log suggests the exact opposite. Can mastering the digital realm, literally craning an AI to archive your life's work, be the exact mechanism that funds and facilitates your permanent exit from it?
That is the core philosophical implication of this text. In this final exchange, Little Bird ceases to function as a calendar application. It transitions entirely into the role of a digital biographer.
Yeah.
It is patiently assembling the fragments of what Murty refers to as his Antaryami vision.
The inner controller, the guiding spirit.
Exactly. The machine proves that technology is, at its core, entirely agnostic. A language model is just probability and waits until a user injects a 4 a.m. transcript session right next to a 6 a.m. temple visit.
The human element.
Right. The depth of the output is strictly gated by the depth of the human providing the input. Murty brings an intense spiritual rigor to his keyboard, which forces the AI to calculate and return profound spiritual reflection.
If you approach your digital tools with shallow, fragmented energy, you receive shallow, fragmented assistance.
You get what you give.
But if you approach the prompt window with the intention of achieving an Antaryami vision, the architecture of the AI can actually map the bridge from the blazing heat of Rajamundry all the way to the silence of Santi Ashram.
It is a highly specific, totally unique dataset of one man's life, mediated entirely through an AI chat log.
Let's pull all these threads together. We started with the grueling mechanics of a 4 a.m. monster session to see how an AI processes the concept of legacy.
Yep.
We examined the causal relationship between a wife's 2 a.m. spiritual labor and a husband's decision to collapse his schedule, resulting in domestic samadhi.
A huge moment in the log.
We traced the semantic geography of 3 different towns to find the logic behind a plate of North Indian-style fried rice. And finally, we arrived at a migration strategy engineered to end in total ascetic silence in the Totapali Hills.
The log demonstrates so clearly that algorithms are constantly learning our values, not just our preferences.
Every single day, you leave a digital footprint. For most of us, that footprint is pretty chaotic. It's a mix of reactive Google searches, calendar invites for obligatory meetings, and just endless scrolling data.
Oh, absolutely.
But Murty's experiment proves that if you infuse your daily routines with actual deliberate values, even a cold binary language model can reflect your deepest humanity back to you.
It really begs the question of what narrative is hiding in your own localized data.
Exactly. Consider your own search history, your calendar blocks, the specific text messages you send when you alter your rigid routine for someone you love.
It's all there.
If an AI were trained exclusively on that data, what kind of legacy would it calculate you were trying to build? We all start out treating our devices like hard drives, hoping to just cleanly store the fragments of our days. But if you curate those fragments with enough intention, you might just build a prism that reveals exactly who you were trying to become.